LATD Nation, what is good? We are back once again with another video. As always, you are joined by RG from the 843, aka Rodney. And as usual, I have my co-host, partner in crime.
This your boy Jay, aka King J, man. How y'all doing?
Man, I'm ready to get into this review, man.
Yeah, same here. One of the weirdest episodes of this season.
Oh yes, sir.
And of the show in general.
For sure,
The Boys, season 4, episode 6.
Oh yeah, it's an episode that's gonna go down in infamy, even within the Boys fandom. Because the thing about the Boys, at this point, anybody watches it know it's known for being very audacious, being very kind of crass, being kind of like out there, but not without its reason, not without its substance. But yeah, this episode took everything that kind of makes the boys and kind of elevated it to a level that I honestly didn't think we would see.
Right. So
plot of this episode is Huey goes undercover as this superhero web weaver, parody Spider-Man.
Right.
And in an attempt to infiltrate the meeting.
It's like a campaign meeting.
A campaign meeting between Victoria Newman, the Seven, and just a meeting to kind of sort of get on page about how they're going to move forward with this campaign and move forward with their marketing strategy, this, that, and the third. So, of course, MM, currently being the leader, he thinks that this is a good opportunity to get some information.
Right.
Just get some useful knowledge that could potentially end not just the Seven, but,
Victoria
Newman
as well.
So, yeah. Meanwhile, Butcher, we're going to get to him. Butcher is off doing his own thing. He's currently MIA. Nobody has contact with Butcher.
Right.
And, obviously with the last episode ending the way it did, we know that Butcher is currently torturing Samir.
Right.
Who he kidnapped. Butcher and Joe Kessler.
Right. Yeah, Butcher and Joe Kessler and Becca by, different means.
Basically.
But yeah, so Butcher's off. He wants to make a whole nother soup killing virus.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that one later. But the main plot focuses on MM, Huey, Annie, and Kimiko. Thank you.
Yep.
And Kimiko, so they can infiltrate Tech Knight's mansion. Tech Knight being kind of being first introduced in Gen V, but being like a parody of like Batman. Very great show. Being a parody of like Batman, him being the world's greatest detective. So as Rod mentioned earlier,
yeah, because he's basically super perceptive. He has heightened hearing, smell,
all 5 senses, really.
Yeah, basically.
Like he notices like sweat dripping down, or can can hear your heartbeat if you're like nervous or whatever.
Yeah,
kind of like Homelander does to a degree, but yeah. So even to a more heightened degree, if anything.
Of course.
So yeah, so that's why they have Web Weaver. Web Weaver being a very
interesting take on Spider-Man.
Right. He's the boys version of Spider-Man.
Because as we've now know the show to do, it takes a character like a Spider-Man or a Superman or Batman and kind of has their own twist on it.
Right.
And this is no different. Obviously, if you watch it, you already know how this version of Spider-Man differs from the main. And we're not going to get into it because, we don't want this video to get demonetized. But let's just say that, it's very creative, I guess you could say.
Let's just go with that.
Yeah.
So pretty much what they do, they dress Huey up to wear Web Weaver's suit because Web Weaver is now has like a sort of audition.
Let's just say, let's call it an audition to be Tech Knight's sidekick.
So they wear his suit to, obviously as a disguise, but also the suit has a strong odor,
which is gonna mask Huey's scent, which would allow him to move freely in Tech Knight's mansion, which is where the meeting is taking place.
So as we proceed through the mansion, Huey gets in, yada yada yada, spy stuff, right? So he meets Tech Knight. They talk for a little bit. Huey plants bugs so that they can get surveillance,
so they can listen in on what's going on in the meeting. Yeah,
and yeah, so
that's pretty much the extent of what we can describe for this portion of the episode. Because what happens after, Nah.
And
that ain't it, Chief.
Nah, not at all. Like, this is arguably worse, like, you know, content-wise worse than, like, than last season's episode 6, which that season 3's episode 6 was Hero.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. The reason why I say arguably because the reason why I say arguably because that was more played for laughs. This one was more played to be like a torture scene.
Yeah, literally, it's literally Huey getting tortured.
Right, because Ashley shows up.
No, of course.
Yeah,
you know it's always for sure, and it's always great, quote unquote, when Ashley shows up. So she needs to get hers already.
I agree. Yeah, beat down.
About tired of her.
Yeah, he didn't say her too. I ain't gonna lie. But the thing is, but when Huey doesn't say anything back due to obvious reasons y'all will see in the show.
For sure.
Kimiko, and Starlight, or Annie, they infiltrate the building themselves to go rescue him. And rescue him, they did. And the thing is, Sister Sage finds them out. Sister Sage, you know, the super smart character, the smartest person in the world, or in that world, you know, probably in this one too. I don't know, but she finds them out, and then starts telling MM about his daughter and stuff like that, and about pretty much his personal life. And MM starts to get like has a panic attack that he thinks is a heart attack, right? And one scene that I did like especially in this whole arc in general this season was A-Train.
A-Train is quickly having one of the best character arcs in the series, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree.
Because they've taken him, they've really done more with him than I initially thought that they would do when the show first started. Like, they've really gone out of their way to give him a proper arc, like a proper journey. I wouldn't necessarily say maybe a hero's journey quite yet.
But more like a redemption.
Yes, they've definitely gone out of the way to really redeem. And honestly, I think that might be one of, if not the most standout aspect of this season, is seeing A-Train's redemption arc in particular.
I agree.
And just seeing him working with the boys, him apologizing to Huey and meaning it.
Right.
Just all kinds of things have gone down to showcase that A-Train is a very different individual from who he was in the first season, the second season. You know, the season where, you know, he killed his girlfriend.
Right. That was the first season.
The first season, he's gone from that and just this sellout to this guy who really does seem to want to just do the right thing at this point. One thing about this episode that I did like was, like, once he rescued MM and took him to a hospital and put him on that stretcher, the kid looks at him and he kind of like nods to him, and it's like he smiles a little bit.
Right.
That's the first time that A-Train has ever been a proper hero.
Right, he genuinely saved someone.
Yeah, this is probably and you can tell this is probably the first time A-Train has ever really done anything genuinely good in probably a long time.
Right, I agree, because the thing is, in episode 2 of this season, I think it was in the first 3 episodes of this season so far, you see how Huey and Annie spy on him, and he's with his nephews, and his brother comes up and tells his sons the truth, and says, like, hey, this guy's a liar. He's never saved anyone in his life. And to see it come full circle here.
Exactly.
I agree. That's that was a really touching moment for me.
Exactly.
In this episode.
And stuff like that is what really makes you want to stick with this show, regardless of, like, how wild and just out there it gets.
Right.
Like, they do weird stuff, but it's not without, I guess you could say, a purpose. It's not without reasoning.
Right, exactly. It's like the messed up stuff shows that, like, compared to the comics has messed up stuff to a degree.
For the sake of it.
Just for the sake of it. In this case, like, I forgot the guy's name he quotes it very well. This is like shows an extension of this show has messed up stuff all the time, but it shows like how the lengths that they'll go to. You know
exactly.
Like, shout out to that YouTuber. I forgot his name. I'm sure I'll find it later on.
But I completely agree with that. It's like the stuff that they go through is more so to showcase, like, the lengths, like how dedicated they are to this cause that they've, you know, obviously invested time, money, resources, whatever into.
Right.
So that was something that I really did enjoy. You know, A-Train and, you know, his overall redemption arc is quickly becoming one of my favorite aspects of this season. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot we can say as far as like everything that happened in this. Like the vast majority of this episode, the things that occur, we can't speak about whatsoever. Right. It's just something you gotta watch for yourself. But however, that leads me to what I want to talk about next. Butcher. And the twist.
Yeah, with John Kramer.
Joe
Kessler. I said John Kramer. Nah, this is not Saw.
Yeah,
with Joe Kessler.
Finding out he's not real.
Right, exactly.
This whole time he's been a figment of Butcher's imagination.
Like Becca is. And shout out to the Movie Files. This is the guy that I do know, that I watch. The Movie Files had a theory on his video about episode 5, saying, and this turned out to be confirmed here.
That's why, because if you really...
Joe Kessler wasn't real.
Yeah, because if you really look at the way that this season is handled, Kessler's character, notice how he's never really in the room when Butcher was interacting with any of the other boys or anything like that. Like, you notice that when Butcher and Kessler speak, it's always like a one-on-one setting. It's never in a group. So that kind of sort of lets you know that maybe this guy ain't actually,
there. Because the thing is, even when they're not in a room, referring to Samir in episode 5, he says wakey wakey eggs and bakey, but Butcher slaps Samir to wake him up.
That's what you notice, and
Samir never really reacts to what Joe
Kessler is saying. Because at first I had that same idea and I had that same theory in my head, but I kind of put it aside to a degree once it was Samir, Butcher, and him in the same room.
Right.
I was like, okay, that can't be right. But this episode rewinds and showcases that, while he was technically in the room, he didn't really interact with Samir.
Right, exactly.
He was kind of just like the devil on Butcher's shoulder, essentially.
And Becca being the angel. And it was really cool to see, like, Becca and Joe, like, pretty much trying to convince Butcher to go on their side and Becca do the right thing, Joe do the lesser right thing.
It's literally the devil and the angel on the shoulder trope.
And then
because how it's revealed is like Becca is talking to Butcher as she's been doing for a while this season, and then Kessler interjects in their conversation, and that's when they realize, because Butcher's like, wait, you can see her, you can hear her,
right? Exactly, and when they go through the whole montage of how he was never there to begin with, because we already know in season 2, Becca's gone. She's
been dead,
she's gone. She went with the Lord, so it's like we know that she's not there. But I like how they set up Joe Kessler to be like, oh, he wasn't there the whole time, but Butcher thought he was. Like, we're in the mind of Butcher.
Yeah, and I really like that because like it just showcases Butcher's sanity is just like, lessening with each and every episode. Butcher is getting closer and closer to just completely losing his mind, and for me, it's sad seeing Butcher like this. Like, this is really Butcher at his lowest point. And it's just kind of like, I ask you a question. Do you think that Butcher, do you have sympathy for Butcher? Or do you feel like Butcher is kind of reaping what he has sown throughout the whole series?
A little bit of both.
I was about to say the exact same thing.
Because I feel bad for him in regards to what happened to him and his family.
Yeah, for sure.
He just wanted Becca back, and then what happened with him and his dad. And
just the way.
And stuff.
Yeah.
But as far as like, him getting his comeuppance of some sort as well through this torment that he rightfully deserves, and he literally put on himself.
Yeah.
Because Huey told him about the Temp V.
And he did it. He went through it with it. Yeah.
Exactly. And he took the Compound V. So there you go. So it's like all of this that's happening to him. It's his fault, but I do feel kind of bad for him because he doesn't want to be this way. And he himself knows that he doesn't want to be this way. He knows that he wants better, but he just doesn't think he can be better.
I agree, because throughout the series, there have been hints and traces of Butcher wanting to be a better man and wanting to change, but he just has always believed himself to be beyond saving. Right. So he continues down this path that he feels that he has no choice but to continue because he's already so far, gone, quote unquote, that he just feels like there's just no hope for him. So That's why he doesn't change, but he wants to. He wants to believe that he can still be better. And I think especially with Ryan, I think he looks at Ryan as like his last salvation.
Right.
Whether he wants to admit it or not.
Like very much like how A-Train is on his road to redemption. It's kind of up in the air whether Butcher will be redeemed or not.
And that's really the best aspect of the show is how they've managed to really create an anti-hero that is so complex. Great, so complex that it really is conceivable for you to see him going either way because he's gone both ways in the past. Right. We've seen him do things for an altruistic reason, but then we've also seen him betray people. We've seen him cross the line. We've seen him do things that he shouldn't have done, and it just always gives you that air of you don't know what he's gonna do next. But yeah, I really think that they're doing a good job of posing that question of whether he deserves this or not.
Right.
Whereas with Walt in Breaking Bad, which we will talk about,
right,
that's an example of somebody I didn't really have much sympathy for towards the end because he was so evil and so selfish to the point to where it was just like you don't really feel bad for him because there's not really a reason to. Like everything that he's done is on him. Whereas with Butcher, you see how Butcher was raised, you see where he comes from, you see what he's gone through in his life.
Right.
So it's understandable how he's become who he is, but in the same breath, you just still kind of are frustrated with him because it's like if you really want to change, you would want to,
Right, exactly. I 100% agree on that. As for this whole episode, though, this episode was okay.
It was all right. I wasn't the biggest fan of it.
I'll give it a 7. It was smooth.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad episode. Yeah, it was just okay.
Yeah, it was just that's how a lot of these episodes are now. They were just okay.
Yeah.
Season 1, episodes 1 through 3 were actually great episodes. But so far, they've really just been in that smooth to low heat range.
Yeah, they've been chilling, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's probably a better word to say. That's probably a better word, but it's like
they've been chill.
Yeah,
they've been all right.
I'm gonna add that to the
for sure.
But yeah, it's okay. Like
I wasn't blown away by it. What really made it work for me personally was the Butcher Kessler twist.
I agree.
Because otherwise, it would have felt like near filler, honestly.
Yeah, honestly, I agree. And the thing is, like when Homelander is giving his speech and they're asking like how is he going to do all this and stuff like that, and the finer details, seeing him kind of crack under the pressure it was cool to see that too. Seeing how it's like. Yeah, he has this new confidence about himself, but he's still Homelander at the end of the day.
Yeah.
He doesn't know everything about everything. He's still just another dumb celebrity hero in the rest of the world's eyes, but super dangerous. That's why he's been able to get his way for as long as he has.
Yeah.
And they show another certain weakness of Homelander's at the end of the episode as well, but I'm not gonna get into that.
Definitely not.
And it's just to say he's being his mouthpiece to a degree.
Basically,
the talker.
She's pretty much been giving him all the game throughout this entire season.
And
she's helped make the majority of the big moves that he's made in this season. Like you said, she's put out of commission.
Right. Because if her brain gets damaged, it'll put her like a weird loopy state or whatever.
But she eventually, it's established that it will eventually recover. It will always regenerate. So eventually she'll be back up to snuff. But for right now, she's kind of like incapacitated.
Just kind of like out of it.
Yeah. And with that, you see that Homelander really without her. It's not to say that he ain't smart, but he has no direction.
He has no direction. Exactly. He doesn't know the terminology of everything, all this political speak, so to speak.
Yeah, she's been giving him the game from the beginning, and that's why he's been particularly successful with the folks that he's been rubbing shoulders with.
Right.
The places that he's been in, because he's had somebody who's kind of been omniscient in the sense that she's been able to just kind of see every move and angle that they need to take in order to be successful, how they need to operate.
Exactly. But overall, it's like you said, this would be borderline filler, because what happens with Huey in this scene, I could have done without that.
Oh, I definitely could have.
Like, it was stupid.
I think it's to serve a greater purpose, but I wasn't a huge fan of it. I think the internet low key is kind of in an uproar about it because they feel like the way it was handled wasn't.
I think it was meant. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think it was meant to be like disturbing.
Yeah, it was.
Like how last season's episode 6, the hero one. I feel like that was more played for laughs than anything, but this one was definitely feels worse because it was supposed to be disturbing because even when they're back in the office, Huey is still grieving over the death of his father and then having to go through that.
Yeah, now he has to deal with this. So like they're kind of like throwing all this stuff at Huey at once.
Right, and it's just like I said, I could have dealt without that, but if it's plays for a bigger purpose with Huey's character, I guess, like not to sound sadistic or anything like that, I guess it's okay, dramatically, I guess narratively, I guess. I don't know how to. I don't want to sound like a weirdo or nothing like that, but
because if it's a catalyst for further growth, I guess it's all right. But it probably could have been done in a more tasteful way, I guess you could say. Especially for how drawn out, because it feels like it's the whole episode is that.
Right, because it was just stupid. Man.
And then it was whatever after whatever, like a different scene or iteration of it after different iteration of it. It's like, can we let this go? Yeah.
But overall, it's still a good episode. I wouldn't call it great.
Definitely not one of its better episodes, if you ask me.
One of his kind of his more boring episodes, but has bright spots in it. Like Butcher and A-Train.
So those things really saved this episode for me. A-Train and Butcher, because if not for that, like I said, it would have just been a filler episode. It would have been just kind of, something to watch, which that has never been the way I viewed The Boys. Every episode that I've watched, generally, I've enjoyed for different reasons. But this one right here wasn't like a major misfire, but it was kind of one of the episodes that I've watched that I feel like didn't really do much of anything for me. Like, I didn't feel strongly about this episode like that.
Like I said, this was a 7. It still is a 7, but on our rating scale, I demoted to it's just something to watch.
For sure. Which is, like I said, that's a first for The Boys. Hopefully that's not a continuing trend this season or next.
I hope episode 7 and 8 and season 5 are great, honestly.
Oh, yeah. I have no doubt.
But, yeah. That's all I got to say, man. I've been Jay.
I've been Rodney.
We're LATD, man. Look at the details, y'all. Peace.